Hello and namaste. It's Katie McClelland here, owner and director of De La Soul Yoga Studios and the facilitator of the 200 and 300 hour yoga teacher training. And this video is to tell you a little bit about myself and to answer some of the frequently asked questions that people have who are interested in the training experience. First, I want to thank you for considering De La Soul's program as a journey that you would like to embark on. It is absolutely my life's passion to facilitate, and as of the filming of this video here in early 2020, we've had 23 groups of anywhere from 20 to 30 people go through the program. And I have to say that every time I facilitate this process for a group of like-minded yogis, it just becomes even more and more fulfilling for me because I get to take the journey with you and I get to grow and evolve right along with you. So I feel very lucky and very blessed that this is my life's work, and I can't wait to get started with the next group. So a little bit about myself. Again, as this video is being filmed, I'm 43 years old. I live in the Hamilton area with my husband and 5-year-old. And I've owned the Hamilton studio location for 14 years and the Waterdown studio location for coming up to 6 years. I do like to joke that I came out of the womb certified to teach yoga because my mom, a longtime yoga practitioner, went through her teacher training when she was pregnant with me 44 years ago. So I think it was just in my cells, and it was inevitable that I was going to fall in love with this transformative practice at some point in my life. A lot of people want to know what sets our program apart from other programs out there, and I think that's a really good question. So I'll start with that. So our program is led by 8 or 9 faculty members that all come from different backgrounds, different traditions, different styles of yoga practice. And for those of you out there who have been practicing yoga for a decent amount of time, I'm sure you've become aware that there are so many approaches to spirituality and to yoga practice. Some practices have you laying still on your mat for up to 90 minutes. And then all the way at the other end of the spectrum are practices that are incredibly athletic in nature, incredibly vigorous, and get your heart rate right up through the roof. And yet these two polarities, polar opposites, and everything in between are all considered yoga, or a path that is striving towards the same ultimate goal, which is a deeper relationship to your true self, using these practices of breath, using these practices of mindfulness and of asana, or yoga postures. And what you'll find is a lot of yoga teacher trainings out there have a very narrow view in terms of what they teach you. So they will teach you a particular style or approach, and it can sometimes verge on being a little bit dogmatic, sort of like this is the way and any other way is incorrect. And these styles can be taught in a very black and white fashion. My roots are in Ashtanga yoga, which is a very strict and rigid approach to yoga. And 25 years later, it is still a practice that I'm deeply in love with and that I practice anywhere from 4 to 5 days a week. But what I've realized throughout my journey through yoga is that yoga is definitely not one size fits all, and that one approach does not suit every single person out there. And so I really pride myself on offering a training that draws from all the different styles of yoga available. And we offer to you these tools and these practices and these different perspectives throughout the training. And we encourage you to try them on and to keep what resonates with you and to simply drop or leave behind what doesn't feel right for you. And so what this results in at the end of the training is that you've developed your own unique relationship to yoga, and you've also developed your own unique voice and style in terms of how you teach and share this practice with others. So if I have 20 people in my training, at the end of the training, each and every person teaches differently from one another, and you would not necessarily know that they all came from the same training experience. And I think that is so wonderful. I love that we celebrate diversity and people's unique voices and personalities in the De La Soul program. So if you are a student at De La Soul, I have about 50 teachers here that teach between the two studio locations, and certainly you have seen how different each teacher teaches, and yet 80 to 90% of these teachers did graduate from the De La Soul program. So I think that's one thing that sets us apart from other trainings. Another thing that sets us apart is we don't do modules. So some trainings will dive into anatomy for an entire weekend, and then the next time you meet, you dive into meditation, and so on. And this can be a really wonderful approach to training, but we do it a little bit differently. We make each weekend more or less a mini intensive or sort of retreat style experience where you are studying with anywhere from 2 to 5 faculty members in any given weekend, and you'll have a taste of many different topics. So the goal is to keep the training experience really dynamic and keep you engaged and energized, and to also leave your body and your mind pleasantly spent at the end of each weekend. So you might have a 3 or 4 hour asana workshop with me on Saturday morning, and then just when you feel like your body's really been worked and you're feeling pretty tired, then you may go into pranayama breath practices with my mom for 2 or 3 hours. And then the next day you might study philosophy for a couple of hours, and then anatomy, and then finish the weekend with a practice that sort of integrates all of the topics that you covered. So we have found that this formula works best for, again, keeping people energized, keeping people engaged, because the days can be long, certainly. And if you're studying just one topic for 8 or 9 hours a day, 2 or 3 days consecutively, it's hard for the human brain to not check out at some point and to just get a little bit weary of the same topic. Lastly, what I would say sets us apart is just the sheer fact that all of my faculty have been practicing and studying yoga for such a lengthy period of time. I have been teaching for 25 years, so I've been through many ups and downs, highs and lows with this practice. I've accumulated thousands of hours of training in many different styles, and many of my faculty are in the same boat. We're lucky enough as well to have our philosophy teacher, Scott Petrie, who is the head of faculty at the Toronto School of Psychotherapy. So he brings not only years and years of yoga experience and specifically yoga philosophy teaching experience, but also that piece of being a lead psychotherapist in the Toronto area, so that he really makes the philosophy relevant to the modern day practitioner in a way that you can apply it to your own psyche and apply it to your own life. And you know what really is a benefit of having practiced and taught yoga for so many years, and this might surprise you, it's that we don't take this practice so seriously. And let me explain that. Many of us, when we're 4, 5, 6 years into the practice, we're very, very dedicated, but we're also very, very serious with it. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be the best yogi we can be, to do the most advanced practices, to be the most spiritual we can be. We try to not judge ourselves harshly. We try to not judge others' paths harshly. And what this can result in is a lot of guilt and a lot of inferiority around spirituality and around yoga. And I really see this with people who have been practicing yoga for 10 years or less. They're really kind of stuck in a dogmatic, burdensome place with this practice. And I get it. I was there myself. But after studying in India for 6 months and studying with so many different teachers and hearing so many different perspectives on the practice, I find that I've come through to a place of lightness and joy and humor with this practice. So even though I am still very, very dedicated, I also am willing to laugh. I'm willing to laugh at some of the idiosyncrasies, some of the contradictions in the various yoga styles. And I really feel that ultimately this practice should enhance our lives, it should bring joy to our lives, and it should be a practice that cultivates self-love and self-acceptance on a deep level. And so really the course stems from this philosophy. So you will never feel when you're in this teacher training process like it is a burden to your life or another thing on your to-do list that you have to check off. When you come to teacher training, you're going to feel like it's truly a gift that you are giving to yourself and a really delicious deep dive into all of these practices of breath and energy and postures and philosophy and studying the human psyche using the tools of yoga. So that tells you a little bit about how we approach teacher training at De La Soul. I'll give you an idea of what a typical weekend looks like. So typically you're going to be in the teacher training for 11 or 12 weekends. The days will be either 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays. And we meet roughly every other weekend. Sometimes you'll have a break of 3 weeks if we're going over a holiday period, and then sometimes to make up for that, we'll do back-to-back weekends. But generally speaking, you're with your group every other weekend. So the fall group typically graduates in the new year, and the new year group typically graduates in early summer. And what we've been doing lately with the spring group is doing one weekend a month. So if you start in May, you would graduate in January or February of the following year, and you would do one weekend a month with 1 or 2 weeknights a month. So be sure to check our online schedule because it might change after the recording of this video. So check out which type of schedule or approach will work best for you. On the first weekend, we always meet on the first Friday of the weekend from 6 to 9 p.m. This is one of my favorite segments of the whole training. It's an orientation night. It's a night where I get to know each and every one of you a little bit better, and you get to know one another as well. We do a little bit of yoga practice. We do some ice-breaking activities. We go over frequently asked questions, and everybody walks into this evening very quiet and very guarded and very nervous, and 3 hours later everybody is laughing and glowing and feeling decompressed and really excited for the journey that lies ahead. Now, many of you would like to know how to make up missed segments. Inevitably, you're going to miss 1 or 2 sessions because of vacation or illness. And we get you made up in whatever way is most convenient for you, and ideally at no extra cost. So we will either do an audio recording of the segment that you miss, or we will get you to jump in to the segment that you missed with the next teacher training group. And even if that's a few months in the future, we still get you to graduate with your current group. There is no final exam in the De La Soul teacher training, but you do teach a class at the end of the training in the last couple of weekends with a group of 2 or 3 of your teacher training peers. You each teach for about 15 minutes, and you teach to your teacher training group, so the class is not open to the public. And at the end of the teacher training class that you teach, we all sit around, and myself and my teacher training assistant and your teacher training mentor, Elena, gives you a constructive feedback session, and we give you some support and some encouragement on your strengths, and we give you some direction as to where we would like to see you grow as a teacher. As long as you complete your 200 hours, either with your group or through making up missed segments, you will receive your internationally Yoga Alliance accredited teacher training certificate at the end of the course. I will leave you with that for now. Your next step is to book a call or a meeting with me, as I do like to connect with everybody individually before we embark on this journey together. And lastly, I just want to let you know that if you're feeling concerned that your yoga practice is not advanced enough for teacher training, please let that concern go. We are looking at this practice from a perspective of mindful movement, honoring your body's limitations as well as your body's abilities. And we will be exploring advanced poses, but from a place of fun and curiosity. And certainly being an effective yoga teacher has little to do with performing advanced postures. It has to do with understanding the more subtle aspects of this practice, and with being able to guide students through mindful movement and understanding how the body works and how to keep people safe and out of pain. So I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. Again, respond to this email, and we will set up a call or a meeting in person. And I look forward to answering your further questions at that time. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.